Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. We are going to take the often intimidating, super academic world of phonology and turn it into a highly practical toolkit for your classroom. Look, if you've ever stood in front of a whiteboard sweating, trying to explain exactly how to make a specific English sound, you know perfectly well how frustrating it can be for both you and your students. So, here is the absolute crux of the problem. How exactly do you teach a physical movement that happens entirely out of sight? It's a fascinating, kind of crazy challenge when you think about it. We are literally asking our students to manipulate their vocal cords, twist their tongues, and adjust their palates in completely foreign ways, and they have to do it completely blind. To tackle this, we've got a great roadmap today. We'll look at the core pronunciation teaching challenge, using learner-friendly analogies, physical tricks for articulation, anticipating common errors, and we'll wrap up with classroom strategies and integration. So let's kick things off with Section 1, the Pronunciation Teaching Challenge. Think about how different this is from the rest of your lesson plan. Unlike a grammar rule that you can map out on the board, or a vocabulary word where you just pull up a picture, teaching sounds requires explaining complex physiological actions. Your students can't just easily look inside your mouth, observe the back of your tongue hitting the soft palate, and copy it. It's basically a hidden gymnastic routine. Which brings us nicely to Section 2, using learner-friendly analogies to make the invisible visible. What's really interesting in our source material is how it explicitly maps out a translation from dense academic jargon to terms anyone can instantly grasp. Think about it. If we tell a student to manipulate their velum or their alveolar ridge, we are just going to get totally blank stares. We absolutely have to build a bridge between the clinical science of speech and the messy reality of the classroom. So instead of demanding a student press their tongue against the alveolar ridge, you just ask them to find the bump behind your upper teeth. Seriously, give it a try yourself right now. Run your tongue up behind your top front teeth. You feel that little bump? Pointing that out instantly demystifies the physical placement. It gives them a concrete, totally familiar landmark to work with. We can also use highly recognizable physical analogies. Trying to get the S sound? Just ask, what noise does a snake make? For the sh sound, ask them to make the universal shh gesture for quiet. For an M sound, relate it to humming when you eat something delicious. These analogies give your students an immediate, intuitive anchor for what their mouth should be doing. No linguistics degree required. Let's move on to Section 3, physical tricks for articulation. Because we can take this a step further. This is the classic paper test, and it brilliantly illustrates how to physically feel a sound. I actually encourage you to try this right now. Grab a small slip of paper, hold it right in front of your lips, and say a hard P sound. You will see the paper literally flap away from your face due to the puff of air, the aspiration. Now say a B sound. The paper barely moves. For a student struggling to differentiate those two sounds, seeing that paper move is a massive light bulb moment. And there are variations of this for all sorts of sounds, using everyday objects or even just the palm of their hand. Students can physically measure their own airflow. Have them put 2 fingers gently on their throat, right on the Adam's apple. They can literally feel the mechanical vibration of voiced sounds like V or Z switching on, and feel it completely stop for unvoiced sounds like F or S. What we are doing here is turning intimidating theory into simple action. Instead of saying, produce a voiced labiodental fricative, which sounds terrifying, look at this instruction from the source. Touch your top teeth with your bottom lip and breathe out, using your voice. This step-by-step physical instruction achieves the exact same phonetic result, the V sound, without any of the panic. Now for Section 4, we need to talk about anticipating common articulation errors. Because pronunciation is heavily influenced by a learner's first language, their L1, we see very predictable patterns. This is actually great news for us. For example, Spanish speakers consistently struggle with consonant clusters starting with S, often inserting a vowel to make it easier to say. So stop becomes is stop. German speakers might pronounce the W as a V, turning wine into vine. The source material provides a comprehensive chart tracking these L1 specific challenges. Now, this isn't about memorizing every single error in the book. It's about empowering you to plan lessons uniquely tailored to your specific student demographics. If you know you're walking into a class full of native Japanese speakers, you know exactly which phonetic hurdles to target on day 1. Knowing these specific pitfalls, like confusing the V and W sounds or dropping consonants at the ends of words, changes your entire approach. It means you aren't just putting out fires when a student inevitably gets frustrated. Instead, you're actively structuring your lessons to prevent these predictable phonetic roadblocks from taking root in the first place. All right, let's bring it all together in Section 5, Classroom Strategies and Integration. A highly effective way to train a student's ear, their receptive skills, is by using minimal pairs. This strategy forces students to distinguish between potentially conflicting sounds, like the ah in cap and the in cup, before they ever attempt to say them out loud. It makes perfect sense, right? If they can't hear the difference, they definitely can't physically reproduce the difference. Once they can successfully hear the sound, your production should follow a proven, structured flow. First, elicit the sound, maybe use some flashcards. Then model it and drill it as a whole group so your students feel confident and, frankly, anonymous. Next, you move to targeted individual practice and finish up with peer review. It's a safe, steady ramp up to producing totally new sounds. To ensure real consistency across your curriculum, you should aim to blend these 3 distinct types of lessons. Integrated lessons weave pronunciation into your everyday grammar and vocab naturally. Remedial lessons are your on-the-spot reactions to unexpected errors. And practice lessons are those dedicated times where one specific sound is the undisputed star of the show. The key is, pronunciation should never just be an afterthought. Ultimately, the absolute most important takeaway from all of this is right here. Our goal is not to create perfect clones of British or American speakers. Let's be honest, a perfect native accent is a total myth anyway. Our true goal is wide comprehensibility. We want to give students the physiological tools they need to speak comfortably and be clearly understood wherever they happen to travel in the world. So, as you head into your next class and look over your lesson plan, ask yourself a question. Are you just asking your students to listen and repeat like a parrot? Or are you giving them the actual physical toolkit they need to feel the language in their own bodies? Because I promise you, if you can teach them to feel it, there's absolutely no limit to how fast they can master it. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.